Hello again and welcome back to my channel. I'm Goldie and here you hear about my golden goodies of my experiences, knowledge and my pulse for my life, for my knowledge and so on. Last time I talked about Neville and Barbados, and I promised you that I go on what I found out. First, always remember, miracles happen every day. Also for me, also for you, right? So what I found out around this story, because it shook me so much to the depth of my heart, that this should be possible, that by pure imagination, as I told you last time, this fusion, like Neville writes it in his book, and I said, I want to be more a fuser and a hower, planner, and so on. So it shook me to my core that this should be possible as a total hower, planner, left-brainer. Always, my bullet points. That this should be possible, that Neville could achieve this by merely putting him in his imagination in Barbados already now, although he was still in New York. Shook me to my core. And therefore, I researched everything around it. And I also told you why. Because I couldn't believe it. And then I found out, I heard every video, I read it in his books, what I could find about Barbados, and what others said. And there's also a book, on Abdullah, you can almost find nothing. There's one or two books that maybe are from him, but it's not really sure. And I found it very strange that this guy, this Abdullah, because obviously many people back then learned from him. Basically, I heard even that Murphy, Joseph Murphy, was kind of a pupil of Abdullah. So I found it so strange that he didn't write something so we can read about him or so. We only have very few things. So, but anyway, I tried to make up the process around Neville's Barbados story. So, as I found out, he had this urge in 1933 in the fall, and it obviously was mid towards the end of October. Must have been around 20th of October, 1933. There he came to Abdullah and said, I want to be in Barbados, but I'm broke, I have nothing. And Abdullah gave him the advice to already be there and how he should do it. Walking the streets of New York and thinking that it's now the streets of Barbados, sleeping before falling asleep, imagining he's in his hometown, in the house of his mother, laying in the bed there, and imagining everything from Barbados, as if he would be there, And New York would be, that's now my impression or my description, that kind of New York is the dream and his real life is now in Barbados, Kind of insane, right? This is like this we call people schizo if they do that, right? But anyway, this was the task that he had to imagine himself being already in Barbados. Okay. So then he began this imagination work around the 20th of October. Then there are some videos, he already tells something, a little bit of Barbados, and around this you have to hear a lot. I didn't write it down exactly because there are a lot of videos out, and I researched it for myself, what I could get, but I didn't really wrote down which video had which information. Should have done, because then I could read it now for you. But let me sum it up, make the summary. Then around the 5th or 10th of November, he came to Abdullah and said, nothing happened. Until now, I don't have any idea. It's all the same, I'm here and Barbados is there. So, and then Abdullah told him that mean thing. Who is talking about going to Barbados? You are in Barbados, right? And slammed the door. And poor Neville broke, and still no idea how to get to Barbados, being in his family's house, maybe also having free eating and drinking, sure, right, in your father's house, and living there, having nothing to pay and so on. So I think it was double or triple important for him, because if he could spend there some months, he would spare and save the money for eating, drinking, rent, and so on. And okay, then 2 or 3 weeks came. Neville did the imagination and tried to see things from Barbados, and still nothing. And he saw the deadline. The last ship went beginning December the 4th or the 6th, I think, as I found out. So very soon. And the ship, this I found out too, it took a ship 10 or 11 days to go from New York to Barbados. 10 or 11 days. And obviously the letter was brought by the ship. So the letter was sent 10 or 11 days before, So when the ship came in the harbor around the 2nd or 3rd of December, his brother had written the letter around the 20th of November. I think this was the time where Neville, it got hot. Oh, I see the deadline and nothing happened. The layers of the story are interesting. They're really interesting. Now, the imagination work probably caused his brother to want to spend an entire family Christmas with all of the siblings and maybe also their spouses and so on. Once, all together. So let's say that the idea occurred. Neville started his imagination work around the 20th of October 1933. And probably around the first time where he came to Abdullah and said, nothing happened. And he said, who is talking about going to Barbados, This must have been around this time where his brother maybe got the first idea. I want, in the beginning of November, I want that all are together here. The field. And here. And yeah. And this is interesting, right? So after around 2 weeks, there was kind of the field, the matrix, I would call that, the link, maybe the DNA vabbering with his brother's DNA and his DNA. We don't know how it really works. The thought transmission, telepathy. So after around 2 weeks, 1 or 2 weeks after Neville started his process, his brother obviously got the idea that he wanted to celebrate an entire family, total family Christmas, and he wanted to have Neville here. And obviously he knew that he wasn't doing well. And then, let's imagine he talked it through with his wife, how he could do that. She maybe said, Neville won't have the money, maybe the others don't have too. And then he started to write the letter, or the letters. This I couldn't find out. And around the time Neville got totally nervous, must have been around this 20th of November, seeing, he saw that the 4th, 5th, 7th, 6th of December, the last ship would go. And on top 10 days, he would be with the ship there around mid of December somewhere. So around 20th of November, he got really stressed. Nothing happens, and I'm still not in Barbados, and I don't see anything how I could come there. Around this time, his brother probably wrote the letter, wrote the check with the $50, back then must have been hundreds of dollars in value compared to today's money. And sorry. Yeah, so this was the nervous time, probably then overlapping when his brother wrote the check, the letter, and gave it in the mail, and the ship, the last ship that now went from Barbados to New York and then back again, New York, Barbados, the last ship, Barbados, New York, brought that letter to Neville. So you see the layers. He didn't know, Neville didn't know what happens behind the scenes for him. Because the logistics of it, now I'm speaking again, the hour of me is speaking now. The logistics were pretty interesting. Because, you know, when you have an idea to entire family, and the family, they had 8 or 9 siblings, very small ones back then when Neville left, and then old ones, and they have spouses, and not all lived in Barbados. And probably some needed money to come to Barbados because it was not, you know, it was the crash time after 29, right? Nobody had money there except some very, very rich people who did that to us, to the people back then. So, and the logistics are so, and his brother and his wife, they must have thought about how can we get the people here, whom send we what, who would need what money, how do we do it, where can they live? Can they live in the father's house, in my house, in another brother's house, whatever? You know, the logistics. And Neville did his imagination, and he incited that down in Barbados, the work started. This is so great. You know, and he had no idea, and he was so stressed, and he couldn't see anything, and he had to believe and to continue his imagination, and still thinking, I am in Barbados. I'm here in New York, but I am in Barbados. I'm kind of schizo, but who cares? You know, it's so great. So great. Yeah, and then in his brother's letter, he also sent a check with it, $50, for only the expenses, because the ship ticket was paid, first class, and Neville could buy shoes and a suit and everything, you know. And then he went to Barbados, first class, even all the way. Totally lucky. And the letter only came, he writes it here, 2 days later, he already started the journey. And the letter came, let's suppose the ship went on the 5th or 6th, so the letter came the 3rd, around the 3rd. You know, just in time. And until then, until this point, Neville had to keep up his faith and his imagination, not resignating, just continuing. And this Furnace Widdy line, I really researched the name of the line, Furnace Widdy line, so I could find out how long the ship took, and I counted back. When the ship came around 2nd or 3rd, it went into the harbor. So the letter the brother gave with the ship was sent 10 days, 11 days earlier at least. So it must have been around the 20th of November, where Neville already was in his crisis and tried to talk to Abdullah again. And he, again, very angry, said, who speaks about going to Barbados? You are in Barbados. I know. Okay, yeah. Can we be that true, that loyal to our own desires? Gosh, I'm kind of Neville. I do it, but no. Oh gosh, Abdullah, talk to me. Now I always tell myself, who's talking about having this, getting this, being there? You are in there, you have it, you got it. You see, the timeline and the surroundings I found out are pretty interesting. You see the layers. Because Neville didn't know anything of those huge logistics that started in Barbados. His brother, the family, they prepared everything, tried to get everybody literally on board to come to Barbados, send them money, pay for it, do the logistics. You know, here is Neville. And he does it in his clouds, that is a good picture. I just invented it now. Neville was in his imagination clouds, you know, here up there. And down there, underneath the surface, the logistics. Here he started, you know. He started in October 20th, around that. Then he went over to November. Beginning of November. Around the 10th, he went to Abdullah and said, nothing happens. So, and around this point, the logistic, the wish of his brother, of his family, to have all the family for Christmas in Barbados started. And the logistics started here. And Neville went on and he didn't see anything. He didn't feel anything. He always felt stressed and said, oh, I do it, but nothing happens. And then, you know, the two came together beginning of December. You know, the two lines, the under the surface and the cloud line of Neville doing his imagination work, they came together. Can I show it here? Beginning of December. The two lines. Interesting, right? Oh gosh, let's do the imagination work. Let's fuse with our good desires, not the bad ones, you know, because also criminals have desires. We don't talk about that. That should never happen. And yeah, let's talk about our good desires and fuse with them. Oh gosh, it's so great to see this cloud line, this imagination line of Neville, and he didn't realize anything of the big work already starting in Barbados for him. It's done to you according to your faith. Yeah, I'm looking forward. This is encouraging myself again, what I tell you here. I didn't even have made my bullet points. I'm just speaking. Okay, so I see you in the next video. And I talk about something you never heard around this story. And nobody has it. And it's gonna crush. Could move you upwards if you use it in the right way. Thank you for watching. And yeah, write what you experienced with Neville, with the story, what you liked in my video, in my videos. And I'm looking forward to your comments and likes and everything around this. And yeah, I see you in my next video. Barbados Secret. Barbados Story Secret. Okay, so I say goodbye. I wish you luck. Until my next video. Bye.